Captain Jae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the massive warship Vengeance. Through the huge front window he could see a beautiful blue and green planet. Crystal cities sparkled on its surface like jewels. Gardens floated in the sky held up by unknown technology. It looked like paradise. But Jae-ho felt only anger when he looked at it. "Captain," said Dr. So-min Park, walking up beside him. She held a tablet in her hands. "The scans are complete. This is definitely their homeworld. Population is around 12 billion. Jae-ho nodded slowly. 12 billion of them living in luxury while humans had suffered for 500,000 years. "Show me the records again, Doctor." So-min pressed buttons on her tablet. A hologram appeared between them. It showed creatures that looked almost human but taller and more graceful. Their skin had a slight silver shine to it. Their eyes were larger and completely black. "These are the Veilith," So-min said. "We found their records buried under the ice in Antarctica. They lived on Earth long before humans existed. They watched us evolve from primitive apes." The hologram changed. Now it showed early humans, barely more than animals, struggling to survive in caves. Snow fell outside the caves. The humans looked cold and hungry. 500,000 years ago, Earth entered an ice age, So-min continued. The Veilith could have helped us. They had the technology to warm the planet or take us to safety. Instead, they held meetings. The hologram showed the Veilith in a great hall, debating. Jae-ho could not understand their ancient language, but the computer translated their words into text that floated in the air. "They are too violent," one Veilith had said. "Too short-lived to learn wisdom. They will destroy themselves and anything they touch." "Perhaps we should guide them," another had argued. "Every species deserves a chance." "No," the first one replied. "Let nature take its course. The strong will survive. If they are truly worthy, they will find a way." But most of the Veilith agreed with the first speaker. They voted to abandon Earth and let the humans die. "They packed up their cities and left," So-min said. "They took everything, their technology, their knowledge, their art. They left us with nothing but ice and death." The hologram showed Veilith ships rising into the sky. Below them, humans huddled around dying fires, not understanding that their gods were abandoning them forever. "But we didn't die," Jae-ho said quietly. "No, we didn't." So-min smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We learned to make fire that burned hotter. We learned to hunt the great beasts. We learned to work together or freeze alone. Every winter that should have killed us made us stronger." The bridge door opened. Admiral Taejun Lee walked in, his uniform covered with medals from a dozen wars. Behind him came Colonel Yoonji Nam, her hand resting on her weapon. "Status report," the admiral said. "All ships are in position," Jae-ho replied. 200 vessels, in attack formation. "The Veilith have detected us, but they don't seem worried." Admiral Lee laughed coldly. "Of course they're not worried. To them, we're still the animals they left to die. They don't realize what we've become." On the screen, Veilith ships appeared. They were beautiful, like everything the Veilith made. They looked more like works of art than warships. Smooth curves and glowing lights covered their hulls. "Sir?" the communications officer called out. "We're receiving a message from the planet." "Put it on screen." The view screen changed to show a Veilith sitting on what looked like a throne made of crystal. She was incredibly old, even for a Veilith. Her silver skin had grown pale and her black eyes held the weight of centuries. "I am Counselor Hyerin Choi," she said. Her voice sounded like music, even through the translator. "I welcome you to our space, though I confess I am confused. According to our records, your species should have died out long ago." Admiral Lee stepped forward. "We had some help surviving. Pain is a great teacher." "Pain?" Hyerin looked puzzled. "I do not understand. Are you claiming to be from Earth? That's impossible. We observed that world until the ice consumed it. No, higher life could have survived." "You observed?" Colonel Nam spoke for the first time. Her voice was deadly quiet. "You watched us die and did nothing?" We watched nature take its course, Hiren said. It is the way of things. The weak perish, the strong adapt. If you truly survived, then perhaps we were wrong about your potential. Dr. So-min stepped forward, her tablet glowing with data. We have all your records, counselor. Every debate, every vote, every moment you chose to let us suffer. You called us evolutionary dead ends. You said we were too violent to deserve help. Hiren's expression changed. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Those records should have been destroyed millennia ago. How did you? You left them behind in your rush to abandon us, Jeho said. Buried under ice and rock, waiting for us to grow smart enough to find them. Lucky for us, we had 500,000 years to get smarter. The Valeth counselor was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. If what you say is true, then I am sorry. The decision to leave was made in different times by different minds. We thought we were being kind, allowing nature to decide your fate. Kind? Admiral Lee's voice rose. You think abandoning children to freeze and starve is kind? We were not your parents, Hiren protested. We owed you nothing. You're right, Jeho said. You weren't our parents. Parents would have cared. You were gods who got bored with their toys. On the screen, other Valeth appeared behind Hiren. They whispered urgently in her ears. She nodded and looked back at the humans. We can offer you technology, she said. Knowledge that took us millions of years to gather. We can share our worlds, our wisdom. There is room in the galaxy for both. Our peoples. Colonel Nam drew her sidearm and placed it on the console where the Valeth could see it. We don't want your charity. We don't want your worlds. We don't want your wisdom. Then what do you want? Hiren asked. Admiral Lee smiled. It was the most frightening smile any of them had ever seen. Justice. The view screen went dark as the humans cut the signal. All ships. Admiral Lee spoke into his communicator. This is Admiral Lee. 500,000 years ago, they watched us huddle in caves while ice covered our world. They had the power to save us, and they chose to let us die. They called us animals. They called us evolutionary failures. His voice grew louder, carrying to every human ship in the fleet. Today we show them what their failed experiment became. Today we show them what animals can do when they grow claws. All ships open fire. The space around the Valeth planet lit up like a new sun. Human weapons, designed not for beauty but for killing, tore through Valeth defenses like paper. The elegant Valeth ships tried to fight back, but their weapons were made for protection, not war. Humans had learned to make weapons in caves using sticks and stones. They had never stopped learning. Sir, the weapons officer reported, their shields are down. All planetary defense platforms are destroyed. Begin landing operations, Admiral Lee ordered. I want Marines on the ground within the hour. On the view screen, the beautiful planet began to burn. Crystal cities cracked and fell. The floating gardens crashed to the ground in flames. Jeho watched it all with cold satisfaction. This was not cruelty. This was justice. This was payment for 500,000 years of abandonment. Dr. Park, he said, start scanning for other Valeth worlds. I want to know where every last one of them is hiding. So-min nodded, but she looked troubled. Captain, there are billions of them. Many of them weren't even alive when Earth was abandoned. Neither were the humans who froze to death in caves, Jeho replied. But they died anyway. The first human landing craft appeared on the screen, dropping through the planet's atmosphere like falling stars. Inside each craft, human soldiers checked their weapons one last time. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. On the planet below, Valeth civilians looked up at the sky in terror. Many had never seen violence before. Their society had been peaceful for thousands of years. They were about to learn what violence looked like when it was perfected by 500,000 years of survival. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving distress signals from 12 different Valeth colonies. They're requesting immediate assistance. Admiral Lee looked at the tactical display. Red dots appeared across the galaxy, each one marking a human fleet attacking a Valeth world. Good, he said. Right on schedule. Hyarin's face appeared on the screen again, but now she looked desperate. Behind her, alarms were sounding and Valeth were running in panic. Please, she said. Stop this madness. We can negotiate. We can make amends. Make amends? Colonel Nam stepped forward. Can you bring back the humans who died because you left them? Can you give back the children who never got to be born because their parents froze to death? No, but then there's nothing to negotiate. Jeho walked to the front of the bridge and stared down at the burning planet. 500,000 years ago, you looked down at Earth and decided we weren't worth saving. Today, we look down at your world and make the same choice. You're making a mistake, Hyarin said. There are other species in the galaxy. They will not stand for genocide. Let them try to stop us, Admiral Lee said. We survived an ice age you left us in. We survived plagues and wars and disasters that should have ended us 100 times over. What makes you think we can't survive them? The great council chamber of the Valeth homeworld had not seen such panic in 10,000 years. Ancient beings who had lived for centuries ran back and forth, their usually calm faces twisted with fear. The beautiful crystal walls shook as human bombs exploded somewhere above them. Archivist Min-Ho Kang stood before a massive data core, his silver fingers dancing over controls that most Valeth had forgotten how to use. He was one of the oldest among them, old enough to remember when the council first decided to abandon Earth. The records, he called out to the other council members. I need to access the deep records from the Earth abandonment. Why? Demanded Counselor Hyarin, who had barely escaped the surface bombardment. What does ancient history matter now? Because these humans know things they shouldn't know, Min-Ho replied. The data core hummed to life, and ancient files began to appear in the air around them. They spoke of our debates, our votes. They know exactly what we did and why. The holographic records filled the chamber. Suddenly, the Valeth could see their ancient selves, standing in this very room 500,000 years ago. But then, the chamber had been filled with light and hope. Now it shook with explosions and fear. In the ancient recording, a younger Min-Ho stood beside another Valeth, one with kind eyes and a gentle voice. This was Da-Hyun Song, and she had been the only one to argue for helping the humans. Look at them, the ancient Da-Hyun said in the recording, gesturing to images of early humans struggling in the ice. They use tools. They care for their wounded. They make art on cave walls. These are not animals. They are children learning to walk. But the other council members had disagreed. The recording showed them clearly now. Dozens of Valeth, all certain they were making the right choice. They fight constantly, one had argued. Brother kills brother over scraps of meat. They live such short lives, said another. What wisdom can they gain in mere decades? They will pollute the galaxy with their violence, a third had added. Better to let them die out now than spread their poison to the stars. Young Min-Ho in the recording had nodded along with the others. The vote is clear, his past self had said. We abandon Earth. Let natural selection decide if they are worthy of survival. Only Da-Hyun had voted against abandonment. Only she had wanted to help the freezing humans. The recording ended. In the present, old Min-Ho stared at his younger self with horror. We were so certain, he whispered. So sure we were wise. The chamber shook again as another human bomb found its target. Through the crystal walls, they could see fires burning across their perfect city. Where is Da-Hyun now? Asked Hyarin. She was the only one who wanted to help them. Maybe the humans will listen to her. Min-Ho's face grew sad. Da-Hyun died 300,000 years ago. She spent her last centuries trying to convince us to return to Earth, to see what had happened to the humans. We ignored her. Then, we have no one to speak for us, Hyarin said. Far above them on the planet's surface, human soldiers had begun their ground assault. Colonel Yoonji-nam led her troops through the crystal streets with deadly efficiency. The Valeth had built their cities for beauty, not defense. Every building was open and welcoming. Every street was wide and bright. It made them perfect targets. Squad 3. Take the communication center. Yoonji spoke into her radio. Squad 7. Secure the transport hub. Remember, no civilians, but anyone who resists dies. Her soldiers moved like ghosts through the Valeth city. They had trained for urban combat on 100 different worlds. They knew how to clear buildings, how to move without being seen, how to kill quickly and quietly. The Valeth had no such training. Most of them had never seen violence before. When human soldiers appeared, many Valeth simply stood there, not understanding what was happening. "Please," one Valeth civilian said to a human soldier, "we mean no harm. We are peaceful people." The soldier looked at the Valeth for a moment. "So were the humans you left to die," he said. Then he moved on, looking for military targets. Yunji reached the center of the city, where a great tower stretched toward the sky. This was where the Valeth government met, where they made their decisions. It was also where they kept their most advanced technology. "Sergeant Dongwu, set charges on the lower levels," she ordered. "But I want the computer cores intact. Command wants to study their technology." As her soldiers worked, Yunji looked around the Valeth city. It really was beautiful. The buildings seemed to grow out of the ground like living things. Gardens bloomed everywhere, filling the air with sweet scents. Streams of clean water flowed down the streets. It was everything Earth could have been if the Valeth had stayed to help. "Colonel," one of her soldiers called out, "we've got a group of Valeth trying to surrender. What are your orders?" Yunji walked over to where a dozen Valeth knelt on the crystal street. They held their hands up in the universal gesture of surrender. Most were crying, a strange sight on their silver faces. "We surrender," their leader said in broken human language. "Please, no kill, we have children." "So did we," Yunji replied coldly. "Your ancestors watched them die." "We not hurt humans," the Valeth pleaded. "We born after Earth time. We not know about abandonment." Yunji studied them. It was true. These Valeth were young, probably only a few thousand years old. They had been born long after their people abandoned Earth. They had never made any decision about humanity, but they had lived comfortable lives while humans struggled and died. "Take them to the prison camps," she ordered her soldiers. "Keep them alive for now. Command will decide what to do with them later." On the human flagship orbiting above, Dr. Seung Ho Yu watched the invasion through his laboratory's view screen. He was not human, but Valeth. Unlike the others of his kind, he had spent centuries studying humanity from afar. Seung Ho had been one of the few Valeth who believed humans might survive the Ice Age. He had argued for secretly monitoring Earth, hoping to see the humans adapt and grow. But even he had been surprised by what humanity became. They had not just survived, they had thrived. They had turned their suffering into strength, their abandonment into determination. In 500,000 years they had gone from freezing in caves to conquering space. "It's remarkable," he said to his assistant, a young Valeth named Kyung-soo. "Do you see how they fight? Every move is calculated, every action serves a purpose. This isn't random violence, it's surgical precision." Kyung-soo watched human soldiers moving through the city below. They seemed so cold. No emotion, no hesitation. "Oh, there's emotion?" Seung Ho said. "Look closer. See how they pause at Valeth art? How they study our architecture? They're not destroying randomly. They're learning. Even in conquest, they're growing stronger." On the screen, they watched a human soldier stop before a beautiful Valeth sculpture. For a moment, he just stared at it. Then he took a photo with his equipment and moved on. "They're documenting everything," Seung Ho realized. "They want to understand us completely before they destroy us." Kyung-soo shivered. "Why? What's the point if they're just going to kill us all?" "Because that's what makes them different from us," Seung Ho said quietly. "We abandoned them without trying to understand them. They won't make the same mistake." A communication request appeared on their screen. Seung Ho accepted it, and Captain Jae-ho Kim's face appeared. "Dr. Yu," the human captain said, "I understand you've been studying my species." "For over 2,000 years, Seung Ho admitted. "I've watched your people spread across the galaxy. I've seen your wars, your art, your science, You're remarkable. Remarkable? Enough to deserve help 500,000 years ago? Xiong-ho was quiet for a moment. Yes, I believe so. I argued for intervention, but I was outvoted. By how much? The vote was 847 against intervention, 12 in favor. Jae-ho nodded slowly. And now there are 12 billion of you on this planet alone. Captain, Xiong-ho said carefully, I want to offer you something. Our complete technological database. Our star maps. Our scientific research from the past million years. All of it freely given. In exchange for? Mercy. Not for me. I know I don't deserve it. But for the young ones. The ones born after Earth. Jae-ho's expression didn't change. Doctor, let me tell you about mercy. Mercy is what humans showed each other when they shared their last scraps of food during the Ice Age. Mercy is what mothers gave their children when they held them close, as they froze to death. Mercy is what we had for each other when your people had none for us. I understand your anger. No, you don't. Jae-ho's voice grew hard. You can't understand 500,000 years of suffering. You can't understand what it means to know that beings with godlike power watched you struggle and chose to do nothing. Xiong-ho looked down at his hands. What can I do to make amends? Nothing, Jae-ho said simply. There is no payment that can balance the scales. No price that can buy back 500,000 years of abandoned children. Then why not just destroy us quickly? Why this slow conquest? Jae-ho smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Because quick death is mercy, and as you just learned, we save our mercy for each other. The communication ended. Xiong-ho stared at the blank screen for a long time. Sir, Kyung-soo said quietly. What do we do now? We face the consequences of our ancestors' choices, Xiong-ho replied. We learn what it means to be abandoned by those who have the power to help. Fleet Admiral Young-soo Bae stood in the command center of the massive human space station Retribution. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets across the galaxy. Each red dot represented a Valith world under attack. Each blue dot showed a world already conquered. There were a lot of blue dots. Status report, Young-soo said to his staff. Commander Sujin Park stepped forward, her tablet glowing with data. 47 Valith worlds have fallen in the past month, sir. 15 more are currently under siege. Estimated Valith population has dropped from 200 billion to roughly 50 billion. Resistance? Minimal. They're not fighters, sir. Most surrender after the first bombardment. Some try to run, but our scout ships track them down. Young-soo nodded. It was going exactly as planned. The Valith had lived in peace for so long they had forgotten how to fight. Their weapons were designed for defense, their ships built for exploration. They had no concept of total war. Humans, on the other hand, had been perfecting war for 500,000 years. Sir, another officer called out. Priority message from Dr. Jiwoo Kim's research team. The holographic display changed to show a woman in a white lab coat standing in what looked like a captured Valith laboratory. Behind her, human technicians worked on strange organic-looking machines. Admiral, Dr. Kim said, we've made a breakthrough with their biotechnology. The Valith don't just build machines, they grow them. Their computers are actually living creatures bred for intelligence. Young-soo leaned forward. Can we use this technology? We're already adapting it. In fact, we've improved it. The Valith bred their machines to be peaceful and cooperative. We're breeding ours to be aggressive and efficient. On the screen, Dr. Kim gestured to a sleek black device that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. This is a Valith communication device, but we've modified its genetic code. Instead of sending messages of peace, it now transmits our propaganda across their networks. Excellent work, Doctor. What else have you found? Their medical technology is incredible. They can regrow lost limbs, cure any disease, even extend life far beyond natural limits. But sir, Dr. Kim paused, looking uncomfortable. They also have weapons we haven't seen them use. Terrible weapons. Show me. The display changed to show sealed vaults deep underground on a captured Valith world. These bunkers contain biological weapons that could wipe out entire star systems, plagues that target specific DNA patterns, Viruses that eat the atmosphere of planets. Young-Su felt a chill. Why haven't they used them? According to their records, they built these weapons millions of years ago, during their early expansion. But they sealed them away after deciding they were too dangerous. Their code of ethics forbids using them. Even against us? Even against us. They'd rather die than risk destroying the galaxy. Young-Su was quiet for a moment. The Valeth could have ended this war instantly, but they chose not to. It was the same choice they had made on Earth. They let nature take its course rather than interfere. It was also why they were losing. Keep studying their technology, Doctor, but be careful. We don't want to accidentally release something we can't control. The communication ended, and Young-Su turned back to the tactical display. A new message had appeared. This one from Captain Soo-Jin Lim of the stealth ship Silent Death. Soo-Jin's face appeared on screen. She was young for a ship captain, but she had earned her position by being the best hunter in the human fleet. Her ship specialized in finding hidden Valeth colonies and research stations. "Admiral," she said, "I've penetrated the Valeth communication network. I'm ready to broadcast our message across their entire civilization." "Do it." The display changed to show Valeth faces across dozens of worlds. They were watching their own news networks, trying to understand what was happening to their people. Most looked confused and frightened. Then the signal changed. Human faces appeared on every screen, the faces of soldiers, scientists, and leaders who had dedicated their lives to this moment. "People of the Valeth," Admiral Young-Su's voice echoed across the galaxy. "My name is Young-Su Bei, Fleet Admiral of the Human Empire. 500,000 years ago, your ancestors found my people freezing on a dying world. You had the power to save us. You chose to watch us die instead." The broadcast showed ancient recordings from Earth. Humans huddling around fires. Children crying from hunger. Families freezing in caves while Valeth ships flew overhead. "You called us animals. You said we were too violent to deserve life. You were wrong about one thing. We weren't too violent. We weren't violent enough." The scene changed to show human fleets destroying Valeth worlds. Cities burning. Ships fleeing. Civilians running in terror. "We spent 500,000 years learning to survive without gods. We learned to be our own saviors. And now we've come to show you what your abandoned children became." On thousands of Valeth worlds, people watched in horror as their perfect civilization crumbled before human efficiency. "This is not conquest," Young-Su continued. "This is evolution, natural selection. The strong survive, the weak perish. You taught us that lesson when you left us to die. Now we're teaching it to you." The broadcast ended, leaving the Valeth to contemplate their fate in silence. On the Valeth capital world, Chancellor Bonhua-O tried desperately to organize some kind of resistance. But his people had no experience with war. Their leaders were philosophers and scientists, not generals. "We need to evacuate the core worlds," he told his council. "Move the population to the outer colonies where the humans haven't reached yet." "The humans are tracking our ships," replied Defense Coordinator Mi Young-Choi. "Every time we try to move civilians, their stealth vessels appear and destroy the transports. Then we fight them." "With what?" Mi Young gestured to a holographic display showing their military forces. "We have exploration vessels and research ships. They have warships designed for killing. Our weapons are meant to disable. Theirs are meant to destroy." Bonhua slammed his fist on the crystal table. "There must be something we can do." "There is," said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to see Elder Yonghua No, one of the oldest Valeth still alive. She had been present at the original vote to abandon Earth. "The sealed weapons," she said. "The planet killers we locked away. We could use them." The chamber fell silent. Every Valeth knew about the ancient weapons, but they had been forbidden for millions of years. "Those weapons could destroy entire star systems," Bonhua said, "including ours. Better than letting the humans exterminate us slowly," Yonghua replied. "At least it would be quick. We swore never to use those weapons again. We learned from our mistakes." Yonghua's ancient eyes blazed with anger. "Our mistakes? Our only Mistake was not killing these humans when they were still primitive animals. Now they've become the monsters we feared they would become. On a distant human ship, Sergeant Inguk Park led his squad through the corridors of a captured Valeth research station. The walls were covered with strange living murals that seemed to watch them pass. "Creepy place," muttered one of his soldiers. "Stay focused," Inguk replied. "Intelligence says there are still civilians hiding in the lower levels." They found them huddled in what looked like a nursery. A dozen young Valeth, some barely more than children by their species standards. They looked up at the human soldiers with terrified black eyes. "Please," one of them said in broken human language. "We do nothing wrong. We born after Earth time. We not hurt humans." Inguk looked down at them. They were telling the truth. These Valeth were too young to have been involved in the abandonment. They had lived their entire lives in peace, never knowing about the ancient decision that had doomed their species. "You're right," he said quietly. "You didn't hurt us, but you lived comfortable lives while we suffered. You enjoyed the paradise. Your ancestors built with the technology they could have used to save us. We not know," the young Valeth pleaded. "We not responsible for ancestor choices. Neither were the human children who froze to death in caves," Inguk replied. "But they died anyway." He raised his weapon, then stopped. Something in their faces reminded him of his own daughter back on Earth. The same fear, the same innocence. But his daughter was alive because humans had learned to be hard. These young Valeth were about to die because their ancestors had been too soft to make difficult choices. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. Then he did what had to be done. Later, as his squad prepared to leave the station, one of his soldiers asked, "Sergeant, did we do the right thing?" Inguk was quiet for a moment. "The right thing was helping us 500,000 years ago. Everything else is just consequences." Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Human forces found Valeth colonies, research stations, and refugee fleets. Some Valeth tried to fight, most tried to run, a few tried to surrender. It didn't matter. The humans were thorough and methodical. They had learned patience during their long, cold childhood, and they had learned efficiency through 500,000 years of survival. Dr. Na Young John was one of the few Valeth to escape the initial wave of attacks. Her research vessel had been exploring a dead system when the humans began their campaign. Now she sent desperate messages to anyone who would listen. "This is Dr. Na Young John of the Valeth Science Council," she broadcast on all emergency. Deep in the Veil Nebula, hidden behind walls of cosmic dust and radiation, lay a world that no star maps showed. The Valeth called it Sanctuary, and it had been their greatest secret for over 1,000,000 years. Guardian Wu Jin Shin stood on the planet's highest tower, watching as the last refugee ships arrived, ships packed with survivors from dozens of destroyed worlds, carrying all that remained of Valeth civilization, less than 1,000,000 souls from a species that had once numbered in the hundreds of billions. "Guardian," said his aide, Kyungmin Lee. "The final transport is requesting landing clearance. They're carrying civilians from the Arcturus colony." Wu Jin nodded. "Clear them for landing pad 7 and prepare medical teams. The reports say many are wounded." Through the tower's crystal windows, he could see the great city of Sanctuary spreading below. Unlike the open, welcoming cities the Valeth usually built, this one was designed for defense. Massive energy shields covered the sky. Weapons platforms hidden in the mountains could destroy fleets. Deep bunkers could shelter millions. It was everything the Valeth had sworn never to build again. A fortress world, created in their violent youth and hidden away when they chose the path of peace. Now it was their only hope. "Sir," Kyungmin said quietly, "the council is requesting your presence. They're debating the final option." Wu Jin closed his eyes. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. "I'll be right there." The council chamber was smaller than the great halls on other Valeth worlds, but it was older. Much older. Here, the ancient Valeth had made decisions that shaped the galaxy. Here, they had first chosen to abandon violence. And here they might choose to embrace it one final time. Elder Donghyun An stood at the center of the chamber, his ancient form bent with age and sorrow. Around him, the last leaders of the Valith civilization argued in desperate voices. "The humans will find us eventually," said Counselor Ji-Yon Park. "Their tracking technology is too advanced. We have days at most before they discover sanctuary." "Then we use the Sunburst Protocol," replied Defense Minister Tae-Ho Kim. "We activate the ancient weapons and end this war. The Sunburst weapons will destroy everything within 1,000 light-years," protested Science Advisor Hai Jin-Yu. "Every planet, every star, every living thing. It's genocide on a galactic scale." "Better than letting the humans exterminate us slowly," Tae-Ho shot back. "At least this way we take them with us." Elder An raised his hand for silence. "We have debated this for days. The humans have shown no mercy, no willingness to negotiate. They want us extinct, and they will not stop until we are all dead." "There must be another way," pleaded Dr. So-Young Choi. "We are scientists, philosophers, artists. Violence is not our nature." "Violence was never our nature," An agreed. "And that is why we are dying." Woojin stepped forward. "Elder An, if I may. The Sunburst weapons were sealed for good reason. We built them in our youth when we were as aggressive as the humans are now. We learned from our mistakes and chose a better path." "And where did that path lead us?" An's voice was bitter. "To extinction. The humans were right about one thing. The galaxy belongs to the strong. We forgot that lesson and now we pay the price." On the chamber's view screen, a tactical display showed human fleets moving through nearby systems. They were getting closer, their search patterns growing more focused. "They're hunting us like animals," whispered Counselor Park. "Our people are hiding in cargo holds and maintenance shafts, afraid to send even the simplest transmissions." "Because that's what we did to them," An replied. "We reduced them to animals struggling for survival. Now they're returning the favor." Far from Sanctuary, Admiral Kyung-Mi Han led the human search fleets deeper into the nebula. Her flagship, Nemesis, was equipped with the most advanced sensors in the human fleet. If anyone could find the hidden Valith world, it was her. "Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Chang Woo Park, "we're detecting anomalous energy readings in Sector 7G. It could be artificial." "Could be isn't good enough," Kyung-Mi replied. "Launch probe squadrons, full-spectrum scans. If there's a Valith world in this nebula, I want it found." Her probe ships darted through the cosmic dust like hunting hounds following a scent. The nebula was vast and dangerous. Radiation that could kill unprotected humans, gravity wells that could crush ships, stellar phenomena that confused sensors. But the humans pressed forward. They had learned persistence during 500,000 years of survival. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Min Soo-yoon. "We're receiving a transmission from Fleet Command. Admiral Young-soo wants a status report." Kyung-Mi activated the holographic communicator. Admiral Young-soo's face appeared, stern and expectant. "Admiral Han, what's your progress?" "We've eliminated 3 more Valith colonies in the outer systems," Kyung-Mi reported. "Total enemy population is now estimated at less than 1 million. But the largest concentration has disappeared completely. Our intelligence suggests they have a hidden world somewhere in this nebula. Find it. The war doesn't end until every last Valith is dead." "Understood, sir. But Admiral, we're detecting some unusual energy signatures. The Valith may have weapons we haven't encountered before." Young-soo's expression didn't change. "Whatever they have, we can handle it. We've survived everything the galaxy could throw at us. We can survive them too." The transmission ended, leaving Kyung-Mi to stare at the swirling nebula outside her ship. Something felt wrong. The Valith were peaceful, but they weren't stupid. They wouldn't run to a hiding place unless they had a reason to believe it could protect them. "Ma'am," said Tactical Officer Hyunju Kim, "Probe 17 has found something. It's big." The main view screen lit up with scanner data. Deep in the nebula's heart, hidden behind layers of radiation and cosmic debris, was a planet. But not just any planet. This one was covered with artificial structures, cities, weapons, platforms, energy shields that could deflect starlight itself. "How long has that been there?" Kyung-Mi asked. "Based on the construction patterns, over 1,000,000 years, Hyunju replied. "This isn't some emergency shelter, Admiral. This is a fortress world built by the ancient Valith." Kyungmi studied the tactical display. The planet's defenses were impressive, more advanced than anything they'd encountered on other Valeth worlds. But they were also old, designed with ancient technology. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "We've found them." On Sanctuary, the alarms began to sound. Guardian Wu Jin ran to the command center, where technicians worked frantically at their stations. "Status report," he demanded. "Human probe detected in outer sensor range," replied Sensor Chief Yansu O. "They've found us." "Time until their main fleet arrives?" 6 hours, maybe less. Wu Jin activated the emergency communication system. "All stations, this is Guardian Shin. Begin evacuation protocol 7. All non-essential personnel to the deep shelters." But they all knew there was nowhere left to run. This was the last Valeth world, and the humans were coming. In the council chamber, Elder An made his decision. "Activate the Sunburst Protocol. Prepare the ancient weapons." "Sir," protested Dr. Choi, "please reconsider. Those weapons will kill billions of innocent beings." "The humans killed billions of us," An replied, "and they felt no guilt about it." Deep beneath Sanctuary's surface, weapons that had slept for 1,000,000 years began to wake. Massive devices that could crack planets, turn stars into supernovas, tear holes in space itself. The Valeth had built them when they were young and angry, before they learned wisdom. Now, faced with extinction, they were young and angry again. Dr. Changmin Lee worked feverishly in his research lab aboard the human ship Discovery. He was humanity's leading expert on Valeth technology, and he had made a disturbing discovery. "Admiral Han," he called over the communicator, "I need to speak with you immediately. It's about the Valeth weapons." Kyungmi's face appeared on his screen. "What have you found, Doctor?" "The energy readings we're detecting from their hidden world. They match theoretical profiles for planet-killing weapons. Not just normal planet killers, Admiral. Weapons that can destroy entire star systems. Can our shields handle them?" "No. Nothing can handle them. These weapons were designed to end civilizations." Kyungmi was quiet for a moment. "Are you saying we should retreat?" "I'm saying we should be very careful. But Admiral, there's something else. My studies of captured Valeth technology suggest that humans may be developing abilities." "What kind of abilities?" "Psychic abilities. The trauma of near extinction, the constant struggle for survival. It's changed us at a genetic level. We're becoming something new." Before Kyungmi could respond, alerts began sounding across her ship. The Valeth were powering up their ancient weapons. "All ships," she broadcast to her fleet, "prepare for battle. This is what we've trained for. Today we finish what they started 500,000 years ago." The human fleet moved deeper into the nebula, heading for the final confrontation. Behind them, they left a trail of dead worlds and extinct hopes. Ahead of them waited the last of their ancient tormentors, armed with weapons that could kill gods. Neither side was willing to back down. The abandoned children had grown into perfect killers, and their neglectful parents had finally remembered how to fight. In the depths of space, the final battle was about to begin. The space around Sanctuary blazed with weapons fire. Human ships darted through ancient Valeth defenses like deadly insects, their weapons carving through shields that had protected the hidden world for 1,000,000 years. Admiral Kyungmi Han watched from the Bridge of Nemesis as her fleet pressed the attack. The Valeth were fighting harder than they ever had before, but it was too little, too late. They had forgotten how to be warriors, and now they were paying the price. "Status report," she called out. "Outer defense grid is down," reported Tactical Officer Hyunju Kim. "We've lost 12 ships, but we've broken through their first line." On the view screen, Sanctuary grew larger. The planet's surface was covered with ancient cities and weapons platforms. Energy beams lanced out from the ground, striking human ships with devastating force. "They're fighting like cornered animals," observed Navigation Officer Chang-Woo Park. "Good," Kyungmi replied coldly. "Now they know how we felt." Deep beneath Sanctuary's surface, Elder Dong Hyun-an stood before the control panel of the sunburst weapon. The ancient device hummed with barely contained power, ready to unleash destruction across half the galaxy. "Elder," said Counselor Myung-Ja-yoon, placing a gentle hand on his arm, "there must be another way. These weapons will kill trillions of innocent beings." "The humans killed us without mercy," An replied, his finger hovering over the activation control. "Why should we show mercy to them?" "Because that's what separates us from them," Myung-Ja said. "We chose wisdom over violence. We chose peace over power. If we activate this weapon, we become the monsters they think we are." Around them, the bunker shook as human bombs found their targets. The last free Valeth in the galaxy huddled in fear as their final sanctuary crumbled above them. "They left us no choice," An said, but his voice was uncertain. "There is always a choice," Myung-Ja replied. "We made the wrong choice 500,000 years ago when we abandoned them. Don't make another wrong choice now." On the human flagship, Dr. Changmin Lee felt something strange happening in his mind. Colors seemed brighter, sounds clearer. He could sense the emotions of the crew around him, their determination, their anger, their hidden fear. "Admiral," he called out to Kyung-mi, "something is happening. The psychic abilities I detected, they're activating. The stress of battle is triggering them." "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure, but I can feel the Valeth on the planet below. They're terrified, but also desperate. They're planning something terrible." Before Kyung-mi could respond, her communications officer received an urgent message. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's coming from their leadership bunker." "Put it on screen." The view screen changed to show Elder An standing in what was clearly a weapons control room. Behind him, massive machines pulsed with deadly energy. "Admiral Han," An said, "I am Elder Dong-hyun An, last leader of the Valeth people. I want you to see what you have forced us to become." The camera pulled back to reveal the full scope of the ancient weapons. Devices that could turn stars into supernovas, crack planets in half, or tear holes in the fabric of space itself. "These are sunburst weapons," An continued. "We built them 1,000,000 years ago, when we were young and foolish and violent. We sealed them away when we chose the path of peace. But you have left us no choice but to use them." Kyung-mi leaned forward. "You're bluffing. If you had weapons like that, you would have used them already." "We didn't use them because we learned from our mistakes," An replied. "We chose to be better than our violent past. But you have shown us that sometimes violence is the only language the universe understands." "Do it then," Kyung-mi challenged. "Prove that you're as monstrous as you claim we are." An's finger moved toward the activation control. Around him, other Valeth watched in horror as their leader prepared to destroy half the galaxy to stop the human advance. But then Counselor Myung-Ja stepped forward. "No," she said firmly. "I won't let you do this. Counselor, please step aside." I said no. Myung-Ja moved between An and the weapon controls. "We abandoned them once out of cruelty. I won't let us doom the galaxy out of cowardice." "This isn't cowardice, this is justice. This is genocide," Myung-Ja replied. "The same thing you're accusing the humans of doing to us." An stared at her for a long moment. Around them, the bunker continued to shake as human forces fought their way through Sanctuary's defenses. "Then what do you suggest?" he asked. "Surrender? Let them kill us all?" "Yes," Myung-Ja said quietly. "If that's the price of our ancestors' choices, then yes. We face it with dignity." On the human ships, Dr. Changmin felt something change. The desperate, violent emotions coming from the planet below suddenly shifted. Fear remained, but the rage was fading, replaced by something else. Acceptance. "Admiral," he called out, "they're not going to use their ultimate weapons. I can sense their leader's emotions. They've chosen to die rather than destroy the galaxy." Kyung-mi felt a strange mix of disappointment and respect. "So even now, they won't fight properly. Maybe that's what makes them different from us," Changmin said quietly. The final assault on Sanctuary began at dawn. Human Marines, led by Commander HFY Kim, fought through the planet's ancient streets. The Valeth defenders fought with desperate courage, but they were scientists and artists, not soldiers. HFY and her team reached the government bunker as the last Valeth defenses fell. The massive doors had been sealed, but human cutting tools made quick work of them. Inside, they found the Valeth leadership waiting calmly in their council chamber. No weapons, no attempt to hide. They sat in their chairs with quiet dignity, ready to face their fate. "I am Commander HFY Kim," she announced. "By order of the human empire, you are all under arrest for crimes against humanity." Elder An stood slowly. "Commander, we are prepared to surrender. But first, may I ask you something? Speak. Do you have children?" HFY was surprised by the question. "Yes, 2 daughters." "And what would you do if someone hurt them?" "I would make them pay." An nodded sadly. "Then you understand why we are here. 500,000 years ago we hurt your children, all of them. And now you are making us pay." "That's right. But Commander, what happens when your children see what you've become? When they learn that their parents became killers to avenge ancient wrongs? What kind of galaxy are you leaving them?" HFY didn't answer. She couldn't answer. The question cut too deep. "We were wrong to abandon you," An continued. "Terribly wrong. But you have become something worse than we ever were. We left you to die. You chose to become death itself." "Enough. Talk," HFY said, raising her weapon. "You've had 500,000 years to make speeches. Time's up." But before she could fire, something extraordinary happened. The walls of the bunker began to glow, and suddenly HFY could see, really see, what was happening. Dr. Changmin's psychic breakthrough had spread to other humans. The traumatic stress of the final battle had awakened abilities that had been building for centuries. And through these new senses, HFY experienced something impossible. She felt the weight of 500,000 years of abandonment, the cold of the Ice Age, the hunger, the despair of watching gods fly away while children froze. But she also felt the Valeth's current anguish, their horror at what they had done, their desperate wish they could undo the past. For a moment, human and Valeth minds touched across the gulf of species and time. HFY saw through An's eyes, felt his ancient guilt and sorrow. An saw through hers, experienced the burning need for justice that had driven humanity across the stars. "You really are sorry," HFY whispered. "More than you can imagine," An replied. "But sorrow doesn't bring back the dead." "No, it doesn't." HFY raised her weapon again, but her hand was shaking. The psychic connection had shown her something she hadn't expected. The Valeth weren't monsters. They were just people who had made a terrible mistake and spent eternity regretting it. But that didn't change what had to be done. "For the children who froze in caves," she said quietly, and pulled the trigger. Elder An fell without a sound. Around him, other Valeth died as human soldiers completed their mission. Counselor Myung-ja was the last to die, and her final words echoed in the bunker. "We were wrong to leave you, but you were wrong to let it change you into this." By the end of the day, Sanctuary had fallen. The last Valeth cities burned under human bombardment. The final refugee ships were hunted down and destroyed. After 500,000 years, humanity's quest for vengeance was complete. Admiral Kyung-mi stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching Sanctuary's cities burn. Around the planet, human ships patrolled the empty space where the Valeth fleet had been. "Sir," reported her communications officer, "Admiral Young-soo is requesting a final status report." "Tell him it's finished," Kyung-mi said. "The last Valeth died 3 hours ago." But even as she spoke the words, she felt no satisfaction. The psychic awakening that had begun during the battle continued to spread among humans. With it came an unexpected burden, the ability to feel the full weight of what they had done. Across the galaxy, humans celebrated the end of the war. Parades filled the streets of Earth. Children who had never seen a Valeth cheered for the brave soldiers who had avenged their ancient wrongs. But among those who had fought in the final battles, There was only silence. Dr. Somin Park stood in the ruins of a Valith library on